It has been almost 40 years since the murder of Esther Darlene Collins. It happened on a Friday afternoon in Katy, Texas. She was working in a model home, a pretty house in the $80,000 range in 1987, so today that would be about $300,000. The home and neighborhood seemed to be comfortable and secure, but nearly four decades later, the person who killed her has never been identified. Esther Collins was 35 years old when she died, a mother of two sons, Troy and Shannon. And by every account, she was deeply devoted to her boys. Troy later described her as the kind of mother who never missed a single one of his high school football games. She worked hard, managed her responsibilities, and showed up for her children. Troy immediately sensed something was wrong on the evening of Friday, November 6, 1987, when his mother failed to appear at his game. By the end of the night, he would learn that his insights were right. At the time of her death, Esther worked as a sales agent for Standard Pacific Homes, staffing a model home in a newly developed subdivision near Mason Road and Highland Knolls in Katy. And by the way, I'm Brenda at Vintage Texas Crimes. Thank you for tuning in. This channel is only about old Texas crimes. Some are solved and some are still cold. But I would really appreciate it if you would hit the thumbs up button to like my video. And if you want to hear more Texas crimes, old Texas crimes, subscribe to my channel. And if you have something to comment, please leave it in the comment section. Sometime between noon and 4:30 p.m. that Friday afternoon, Esther was attacked upstairs in one of the model home's bedrooms. There she had been gagged, bound, and stabbed numerous times. The violence was extreme, and the scene was left remarkably clean, unfortunately, for investigators. And I just want to stop real quick and note that she was not sexually assaulted. So that was not the motivation. One investigator described the scene as almost sterile, as though no struggle at all had occurred. The clean state of the site would limit physical evidence from the start and haunt the investigation for decades, even until today. The last confirmed contact anyone had with Esther occurred approximately 12:30 p.m. that day when she answered a phone call from a woman who lived nearby asking about warranty work on a nearby house, the one that she had purchased. Esther told the caller that a work crew was currently in her office, so she couldn't talk, but that they would be down there to see about her home later. That detail would become one of the most troubling unresolved aspects of the case. Investigators have never conclusively identified or cleared every worker who may have been present at the model home that afternoon. And Esther's family has long believed that possibly it was one of the workers who caused her death. On the Wednesday night before the murder was a Friday, so this would be 2 days earlier, Esther reportedly received 4 phone calls at work. After the first 3 calls, she hung up saying, "No, no, no." After the 4th call, her response reportedly changed to, "Okay, I'll meet you." Shortly afterward, she asked a neighbor whether she had ever been harassed by someone. At the time, it may have seemed like an uncomfortable but isolated incident. In hindsight, it feels like a warning, one that no one realized the gravity of until it was too late. Sometime between 4:15 and 4:30 on the day she was killed, a couple of prospective home buyers entered the model home and went upstairs. What they found stopped them cold. Esther lay bound and stabbed in the upstairs bedroom, left right where she had been attacked. The couple fled and alerted a neighbor who called the police. By the time law enforcement arrived, the opportunity to capture the evidence and possibly the killer had already slipped away. In the hours after Esther's death, another critical clue emerged. Her ATM card was used at 2 different locations, withdrawing just over $400,000. Let me back up. Withdrawing over $400 from her account. Since no additional clues came from this, we can guess that perhaps in 1987, the ATM machine didn't have cameras. To Esther's family, it was obvious. Troy Collins has always believed that the ATM withdrawals pointed directly to motive. Someone didn't just kill his mother. Someone used her bank card afterward, risking detection for relatively little money. So that sort of leads them to believe that it was someone who was in dire need of a few $100s, and but you'd still think I guess that if they would have just tried to take her card, then Esther could have identified them later. So they were really desperate, like he said. This man was never identified or questioned, and never publicly accounted for. or whoever was at the ATM, whereas I'm assuming it was a man. Also, a witness reported seeing another man who looked like a salesman leaving the model home around the time of the murder. That could have been the killer. He was never identified or questioned and never publicly accounted for. Like so many elements of this case, he vanished into the sprawl of the late 1980s suburban Texas, leaving behind only a description and unanswered questions. From the very beginning, Esther's family believed the investigation was mishandled. Detectives initially focused on her ex-husband, Jerry Collins, although he fully cooperated and eventually was cleared. The family has long believed that this narrow focus right up front may have cost them valuable time while other leads were going cold. Neighbors complained in 1987 that detectives were not listening to them, and years later, the family discovered that some investigators were not even aware the case had existed until a private detective was hired and pressure was applied. Those early missteps had lasting consequences. With little physical evidence and fading memories, investigators were left almost entirely dependent on public tips. Refusing to let the case die, Esther's sister stepped into an investigative role herself. She went door to door, took detailed notes, and collected information that would later become central to the case, including the warranty phone call mentioned earlier. The records also show that she's the one who found the suspicious ATM withdrawals. Her effort preserved details that might otherwise have been lost forever. Esther's son, Troy Collins, has said plainly that without his aunt's work, the family would have had no chance at all. Over the years, Esther Collins's case has resurfaced repeatedly in the media, but not enough. One of her sister's real estate clients tipped me off about this story, and I'm sharing it today and hopeful that those who hear this story will share it. We want to continue to look for the person that murdered Esther Collins, and hopefully other news outlets and podcasters will consider talking about this cold case. A cold case team was able to find DNA a few years back, but so far there's been nothing that hit as far as a DNA match. So after all these years, justice is still possible because they do have DNA. Someone might slip up and say something. Please call if you hear of anything or have information. And again, I would like to ask you to share this video. You can contact Crime Stoppers or the Harris County Sheriff's Office cold case to report any tips that you may have. The main phone number for the Harris County Sheriff's Office is shown on the screen, 713-274-9100, and Crime Stoppers, 713-222-TIPS. That's 713-222-TIPS or 8477. The Crime Stopper website is also shown on the screen. And if you need to reach me to make a correction to this video or to leave a comment or to text me with a case that you might have in mind, you can text me at 979-217-2589. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.